hosted by Tony Gapperstone. Thanks for tuning in. It's showtime.
Hey, it's showtime. Welcome to episode 187 of the BraveMaker podcast and live show. My name is Tony Gapperstone. I am a screenwriter, actor, and director. I'm living and doing life from our BraveMaker studio in the Bay Area. I'll give my descriptive, inclusive visual description. I am a Caucasian man with brown hair. I have the BraveMaker word in pink behind me in our faux green studio with some pink and some stripes, and it is a little wild, but we like it wild in Redwood City at the BraveMaker studio. I am excited to do the show. Before I do, I'll tell you, as we are approaching our 5th anniversary of BraveMaker, things are heating up over on our BraveMaker Film Fest page. So make sure you're following us on BraveMaker Film Fest on Instagram. You're going to see all of the announcements. We have a really special announcement coming up on Friday of one of our VIP industry insiders that's coming from Los Angeles. So don't miss the BraveMaker Film Fest on Instagram, July 13th through the 16th. Things are heating up. We're really excited. It's our 5th anniversary. Really cool workshops, and we're giving out our grants for some selected pitchers who will come. Pitchers like pitching their next project. We gave away about $5,000 last year. We're very excited to do it again. And finally, if you have not, watch my feature film, Last Chance Charlene. It's on all the places, VOD, Apple, iTunes, Xbox, yes, YouTube, Amazon. Did I say Amazon? Everywhere. Just Google Last Chance Charlene. It's been out for 4 weeks now, and I love hearing from all of you who are watching it. Thank you for supporting all of the things that we do as BraveMaker, a nonprofit organization. Can't do it without you. So, with no further ado, episode 187 is a Bay Area creative who now lives in Los Angeles. I connected with him through Twitter, which is very exciting. Don't ever underestimate a social media platform that people think is going to die, because you never know who you might find. So with that, welcome with me, ZIMRAN Jacob. Welcome, ZIMRAN.
Hi, thanks so much for having me, Tony.
Heck yeah. If you'd like to do your visual description, you can do it now.
Sure. I mean, I'm an Indian American, cis-het male. I think that's the visual description.
Good. You got a good dome, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Nice dome. Very, very nice. Very, very round. I love it.
I appreciate that.
And you're zooming in, streaming in from Los Angeles, yeah?
Yeah. Yep. West Hollywood, California.
Okay, I love it.
Love it out here.
I'm jealous. I love Los Angeles and all the things that y'all get to do there, but we're trying to make our name in the Bay Area, so I'll stay here until the doors open. Well, let's jump in. So ZIMRAN, you and I were tweeting, connecting. I was stoked. I saw you had some credits on a show, Marvel. I like Punisher, and have a cool, interesting background. We always love kind of the origin stories. Comic book people love origin stories, how the hero or the villain becomes who they are. So just draw us into that. How did you get into this wild journey of becoming a screenwriter and filmmaker?
Yeah, I grew up in the Bay Area, which was at a school that was like 95% Asian. So I went to Mission San Jose High School, and everybody was kind of doing the traditional paths. My dad was a computer programmer, and so I thought that that's what I would do. So I took some computer programming classes, and that was fine. It wasn't really my passion or anything, but my English teachers were really amazing and kind of taught me the literary qualities of the books that we were reading, or the literary elements of the books we were reading, in like a way that was so unique, so and they were so passionate about what we were talking about. And for me, as a kid that didn't really like to read, like they sold me on these books, like Animal Farm, and they sold me on like Lord of the Flies, Mice and Men, books I had never heard of. But when I started to really get into this literature, I started to understand that film and television is kind of written with the same literary elements. And I started to get kind of addicted to this invisible art. And so, yeah, that was, I started in the Bay Area. And all my English teachers had been extremely supportive in one way or another. My 10th grade English teacher wrote me, she would help me with my scripts. She would help me with my college applications and my scripts. She would give me notes. And my 11th grade teacher wrote me a letter of recommendation to go to USC. And yeah, everybody really helped me in their own kind of ways. Obviously my 9th and 12th grade teachers were also super passionate about what they were teaching and exposed me to new literature. So I think it was really my SAT teachers that were like, "Hey, what if you did this as a career? Could you potentially try to make films?" And I said, "You know what? It's better than being a coder. At least it was for me." Uh, and so anyway, I went to USC for a semester, and I eventually settled at Chapman University in Orange County. And yeah, it was like a really magical experience. So I studied at Chapman for 4 years, and I did a semester at NYU as well for screenwriting. Yeah, I came out, worked as a PA for 3 years on and off. Went back to UCLA for post-grad stuff, finance, and also film. And then yeah, like I was playing basketball one day, and I met one of my future bosses, and just told him I wanted to be a writer, and he hired me at his company at Gaumont. So that's when I worked on Hannibal, Narcos, Hemlock Grove, and F is for Family within my tenure there. From there, I went to Marvel, where I worked on The Punisher. One of the producers of Hannibal was going to go run Punisher. So yeah, that was how I got to Punisher, and that I guess that's kind of how I really broke into the world of writers.
It's wild to hear. I think I heard you on another show talking about you're playing basketball and you knew this guy, this executive or whatever, was in the business, and you just said straight out, I want to be a writer. And was it really truly within, like, I think it was on a Monday you said, then maybe on a Tuesday you were hired, like it was like a 24-hour period?
Yeah. I mean, you've done your research on me. That's really good. Yeah, absolutely. That was how I got to Marvel. When I got to the other company, Gaumont, it was kind of I played basketball with him one day, and then one of my friends gave me his personal email, so I shot him an email and I said, "Hey, we played basketball the other day. I was wondering if I could get lunch with you after one of these games, and if I could talk to you." And he was one of the nicest guys ever. His name is Roman Vieras, and yeah, he hired me at his company within the finance department. So it just kind of introduced me to a lot of people and gave me, some sort of access to Hollywood. And it's the reason that I moved to West Hollywood. It kind of familiarized me with the location that I'm currently living in.
So just real quick, I wanted to do a quick back pedal, because one thing that I think is interesting, I'm married to a teacher, number one, and I think teachers are so under appreciated, and we don't realize, or maybe we do, the power that they have to impact people, and having someone really truly believe in you to encourage you into the arts. I don't often feel as if sometimes the arts are encouraged enough, because there's so much scarcity within there. We're often, maybe dissuaded. It's like, do it as a hobby or get a real job coding so that you can pay the bills and maybe do it on the side. But that's really neat that you had somebody say to you, I think you could do this as a job. You should pursue it. And then you go ahead and throw yourself into that. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I mean, my teachers were amazing. And my mom is also a teacher in Northern California, or was a teacher in Northern California, and was one of the best teachers of my life.
Go Mom.
Yeah, and I mean, my dad is obviously a great mentor as well. But yeah, I have great parents that kind of supported me, in the process, and I couldn't have done anything in my career without their support, or it would have been a much different route. So yeah, and my English teachers were great, and all of my college professors were amazing. I have to say, like, everybody was amazing in their own way. So yeah, it really is, a little bit of an unsung profession, especially since it's, people are getting their not many teachers are getting tenure anymore, or whatever the case is. All this stuff about teachers having to buy their own materials, I was never aware of as a child, when these people were giving me, in my opinion, first-class education.
Yeah. So you also, so I love hearing that again. There's no one way to break in. You know, you got to figure it out. Like some go to
Yeah,
film school, some don't. I didn't go to film school. Sounds like you went to 3 different great
yeah,
film schools. So
yeah,
let's talk about that a little bit. By the way, shouting out to my intern Gabriel, who got a full ride to Chapman and just found out he's accepted to USC. So now he's got to figure
wow,
out what to do. So let's
yeah.
hear about how you did that and why you did that. Why USC for a semester and then transferring to Chapman. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I went to USC in the summer of 2007, and it just kind of came down to fit. It was really about like Chapman gave me a full scholarship as well, and so I think they gave me the talent scholarship or the presidential scholarship, and so yeah, I really that to me seemed like the cleanest opportunity for me.
Mm.
And my professor at USC said that he had taught at Chapman and was able to kind of help me out a little bit there as well. Um, yeah, it just felt like they had a lot of I loved their theater. I loved a lot of the things that they were doing. Their sales pitch was really amazing. So that was kind of, they said 70% of people that went to Chapman got into the industry. And
Wow.
a lot of my I mean, a lot of my high school's classmates have been successful in the industry as well, but uh, a lot of my college classmates have also been successful. And yeah, I mean, I think that I also did NYU when I went to NYU to do some prerequisites that I had to do for Chapman. And that NYU was also amazing. So it kind of I just wanted to I valued education, and so that was kind of the reason that I wanted to go to kind of one of the best film schools that I could find. And yeah, you don't obviously don't have to go to film school to be a successful writer.
Yeah.
It is great to kind of learn craft and learn some of the basics, but you can learn a lot of that stuff if you're diligent. You can learn that stuff on your own, and through books or through classes. And yeah, I mean there's really no one way. I mean, you're from the Bay Area, you're in the Bay Area. It's like somebody saying, I want to do a startup. How do you do a startup? It's like, well, you can have a startup selling dog biscuits, or you can have a startup selling, you know, computer chips. As long as you have something that people want to buy, like that's really what you that's how you do it.
And what people want to buy these days as a screenwriters are stories, are ideas, which is kind of wild to think about. Like we're selling our ideas, like we're
Mm,
making a living off of our imagination. I will just never get over that. And I want to talk about what's going on inside that head, that dome of
mm.
yours. But before we do that, you did a lot of time in finance, which I think this is another cool thing, is you had sort of an adjacent job, right? So if you can't get the job that you want right away, can you get a job that's close to the job that you want? Can you talk about the
Yeah.
stuff that you did in finance with film and TV?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I had always had kind of business was my minor, so I had some sort of, and I had run a software company in 2011, so I had some sort of understanding of how a business ran and some sort of understanding of that kind of mechanism. So finance, I kind of had an aptitude and an understanding for it, although I didn't necessarily have a passion for it. I kind of understood what it was supposed to do and how important it was. So yeah, I mean, it was just kind of happenstance. I was working actually at a financial advising company in Malibu,
Hmm.
and financial advising is more of a sales job than anything really, because the advising is pretty basic these days. But yeah, there's how many shows on and how many writers on those shows, like, and probably 3 million people in the city
Yeah.
that want to be writers. So you have to figure out other ways that you can get creative and get onto somebody's radar, or get the connections that you need to sell your show or sell your movie or make your movie. And yeah, again, there's no one path for people that obviously don't have parents in the industry.
So the next step from finance, let's talk about how, like, when it was your first, because I know you also were the assistant to the creator of The Punisher for some time as well, right? So
Yeah.
that the next step from finance was to being in sort of like the production and kind of the crew space, and then from there getting assigned an episode to write.
Well, showrunner's assistant was a kind of a it's in the writer's room. So yeah, it was in the writer's room. So I worked mostly with writers. I obviously had 3 years of production experience at the time that I got into that. There you go. And then by the time I got into that show,
If you're listening on the podcast audio version, there's a photo of one of ZIMRAN's credits being shown from his Instagram.
yeah, and that was a big highlight in my life up to that point.
Of course, seeing your name, come on.
Yeah,
That never gets old, I don't think,
and
in my opinion.
the caption is, "Look, Mom, I'm on TV."
Yes, thanks, Mom, for encouraging ZIMRAN to go after his dreams.
So yeah, it was a lateral move from being in finance. I knew I wanted to be a writer. So when I was at Gaumont, I would go after work every day. I would go to work. I would try to find time to write. So 6 to 9 I would write. After again, like every day I could find time, and sometimes wherever it might be, or like and then like weekends I didn't do any writing. I was like, I'm working all week. I'm just gonna have fun or do whatever I want. So yeah, there's my Punisher billboard as well, which is great. Yeah, I mean, the 2 episodes that I ended up contributing to were kind of research projects that I did, where the showrunner said, I need you to research this topic. So I researched some ideas of how we could solve a couple particular story points. And then I just said, here's the storyline, here's how the research serves the storyline. And that was kind of how I ended up contributing to that writer's room.
Can you talk a little bit about your voice? We have a lot of people come on the show, and I myself am writing things as well. And we were talking offline about working with roadmap writers, and shout out to Joey Tuccio. Recently we were in a conversation on email. He's like, send me, I need an updated bio. Like, how do you want to brand yourself on this next go round? And I was like, okay, cool. Let me think about that, because I have one that I've been using for a while, but I'm going to play around with how I want to describe myself now. And I wondered about you, like, how do you talk about your voice? How do you talk about your brand as a screenwriter when you're pitching yourself, or maybe when your reps are talking about you? What do they say about you?
Sure. I've been lately pitching myself as if Mel Brooks and George Orwell had a child. So like, I like to do like kind of satire, but I also kind of like to keep it a little bit crazy. So yeah, there's a ton of edge to it. There's like a little bit of like social commentary to what I'm doing. I'd done a lot of family dramas, obviously. Like the shows that I worked in the writer's room and then had aired were both comic book shows. And then recently I had a pilot produced, which was like a crime drama. So
your own pilot that you created?
That I didn't create it, but I co-wrote on it. And I was a co-executive producer on it as well.
Congrats. Wow.
Yeah, thank you. That was last year. It was a crime drama. And I can't say too much about it, but I will say like the things that I am currently attached to are like, I say like anti-propaganda, or like I want to say like disillusionment propaganda, which is really just satire. Mm-hmm. But I take like some sort of sacred cow and I try to write something about, whatever it might be. Like, I mean, not that influencers are sacred cow, but I have my influencer script about, but anyway, like it's basically about influencers and how they don't really know shit, but they'd love to give advice.
Did you watch Triangle of Sadness?
One of my favorite movies of the year. Absolutely.
I was gonna say, you must love that one if that's your voice.
I was laughing way too hard in the theater. Good. That and Women Talking really spoke to me this year. And yeah, just really like Triangle of Sadness. It's just, I mean, I don't want to spoil anything, but that scene right in the middle, they're on the boat and another boat comes up to them. That I knew exactly what was happening and I laughed so hard.
Yeah. There's one scene I absolutely love, but you have to have a strong stomach to watch it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I just think that to me, those images of, let's just say,
Sure.
feces, is just beautiful. And one of my, did I say feces are beautiful? But yeah, that scene, that satire scene of just this beautiful thing with feces, like wow. And then one of my favorite lines is this woman asking the captain to wash the sails? The sails are dirty. And the captain's like, we don't have sails, ma'am. This is not a sailboat. I mean,
Yeah.
I would like that movie was so good. Like you go, I wish I wrote that. That's
Yeah,
so
it was, I mean, and it was very, it had so much, like that original scene, the Balenciaga H&M scene was amazing. The date scene, it
so
just
good.
flows so
Yeah,
perfectly and
so
just keeps
good.
delivering and delivering without like getting too deep into the Nutella scene. Like
Yeah.
I will say, like with toilet humor, I did close my eyes for maybe 20 minutes of that movie. I didn't watch anything, and I just heard the groans of the theater. That's
Yeah.
not really my style. But the more highbrow stuff and the more subtle stuff, I tended to really appreciate. Something else that I really loved recently was Ingrid Goes West,
Oh,
and it's about,
I saw that at
yeah,
Sundance.
yeah.
Oh my gosh. Such a good
I
film.
just fell in love with it, and not it's just an amazing film in a lot of different
Yeah.
ways. And yeah, I mean, 1984, George Orwell, and even Animal Farm are two of my favorite books of all time. It's really hard. I think it's really hard to do good satire, and sometimes I think I have good satire, and then I get to the end of the script, and I'm like, no, I'm just a hack. Like,
Mhm, mhm.
I'm just doing things, and none of this is good. But I know yeah, that's kind of what I'm really excited about. What are the things that people hold sacred, and how do I show them a light where it's not as sacred?
I love it. I love that. For our listeners, again, we're episode number 187. I'm with screenwriter ZIMRAN Jacob. And if you like Aubrey Plaza and you have not seen Ingrid Goes West, stop listening right now and go watch that because you will like it. You will like it. You will like it. You will like it. If you will,
Yeah.
you have a white lotus shaped hole in your heart. Go watch Ingrid Goes West.
And just to answer your question, because I think I would like for young writers to kind of brand themselves. I think like making sure that you have a wealth of life experiences is going to be crucial. I know, like, it's tough if you're like 21, 22, and you want to, who knows, maybe you can write Ratched. Like the guy who wrote Ratched was at LMU at the time, and then had passed it on to one of the writers who worked in I believe it was, well, I think he worked in Ryan Murphy camp. But yeah, I think like having for me, I was a financial advisor. I was, I worked in production. I was a dating coach. Like I worked as an NBA journalist. Like there were all these things that I did that were not writing, but can I do a show about each one of those? Probably.
Yeah. I want to point that out because I think that's really important. BraveMaker, we do teach screenwriting workshops as well as acting. And one of the things that we talk a lot about is when you're engaging in conversations, let's say interviews, or you're pitching projects, or even in actors' auditions, there are occasionally times when people say, well, tell me about yourself. And we always say, like, they don't want to know about your acting and screenwriting. They want to know about your life. They want to know who you are as a person. And I
Yeah.
think what you just said is extremely important. Is, do you have things to talk about that are not screenwriting or acting? Can you talk about, your dating life? Can you talk about a great job you had or a crappy job you had? Can you talk about a situation from your family of origin growing up? Because all of those things, and I've also heard, sometimes people overshare the trauma porn of their life. You got to figure out what you're comfortable with, maybe what your people are comfortable with too. But sometimes those painful moments can really spur on something that a showrunner would be interested. Like, oh, you've experienced, infertility, or you were a foster kid. Like, that's the show we're working on right now. We want you in this room, right? So can you talk a little bit about that? Has that been your experience, that you've been able to make some connections because of that?
Absolutely. I mean, Punisher, it was because I was a chess player. I was a nationally ranked chess player. So they were like, look, they understood that it takes an analytical mind to kind of play chess. And so they wanted to, I mean, I guess they were curious about me. I also had a great recommendation, but Yeah, that was one. And I think the next time I was getting hired into a room, the prerequisite was that I had worked on The Punisher. So
Like, that's easy. I'll check that box. Oh, that's good.
but yeah, I think like people, I have a friend who she's an upper level writer, and she kind of said, have something where they have to meet you.
Yeah.
And I'll give this example just because I know it's very much in the public. Like, Pete Davidson says, like, if his father didn't die in 9/11, like his career would have been different or something like that.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was Stavros who said that about Pete Davidson. But I think like no, I think Pete Davidson also said that about himself. But I think there's some sort of truth to that. Like that personal story and that personal connection gets people's attention. And yeah, like obviously that's a gigantic one, and that's like a huge tragedy. But yeah, ultimately, when you're in a room, you're a problem solver. So what problems do you have experience solving, and how does your previous experience help you solve the problems that are in the room? So for example,
great.
one of my friends was an EMT, and anyway, like I won't say which show, but we were writing a show where it was like it was a whole episode where they're trying to fix somebody up who's been wounded very badly. So he just wrote that whole episode, and then that was that was how his experience kind of tied into that episode, and that's how he got the episode. Or,
Awesome.
And sometimes it's like, okay, like where's the young party person? They're gonna write the party episode. Like it doesn't necessarily have to be something gigantic, but it's just something that you can kind of take ownership of and add to the room or add to the office.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, people who know me, it's not a surprise, but I have branded myself. I'm an ordained pastor, weirdly, so I have this kind of faith background, but I often drop the F-bomb, and I'm all tatted up. So it's not like what you expect, and I really like satire that pokes at religion. And so a lot of my work has usually a character or a theme or something that is exposing sort of this religious, scandal and irreverence. I really love that kind of stuff, and I like messy characters that find redemption in really strange ways. That doesn't always have to be in experiencing the transcendent, but it's what I like in life is I always find hope and the goodness in sometimes like the weirdest, messiest situation. So I'm really drawn to that. So that's usually how I pitch myself and what my work is revealing. And so if you have that, writers out there, and you can succinctly say that in like 3 to 5 sentences, you're off to the races.
Have you seen Righteous Gemstones?
Love that show. I have a show just like it in a small church. So I pitch my other show. It's called Church Biz. I pitch it like Righteous Gemstone in Middle America between a white and a black church. Yeah, that's how I pitch my Church Biz show. Yeah.
Okay, great. I like that.
Yeah, I love that show. Well, this is awesome, man. I mean, I'd love to hear. We always, like to hear what you would encourage the emerging writers out there to do if they're finding themselves feeling stuck or like, I want to do what you're doing. Again, there's no right way or one way, but what are some things that they should be having in their, in the backseat in their bag to show or to do?
I mean, I think, social media is becoming the new kind of move to LA in a lot of ways. So if you can connect with people on social media, that is crucial. I think, I still think being in LA has a huge advantage because a lot of people are here, and like, if you want to have a meeting in person, those are kind of coming back. So that is those are probably early steps. But really it's coming up with a body of work and finding a network that can kind of promote your work. If you say the word, the name like M. Night Shyamalan or Martin Scorsese, Alfred Hitchcock, Quentin Tarantino, whoever, the great directors, Kurosawa, as soon as you hear the name, you know what kind of movie they do, right? So that's I feel like that's what even Jordan Peele now, right, has his own very interesting style. I think as soon as when that happens, I think like you want to start branding yourself in some sort of way. Who has had a similar career to me, and how can I emulate them? And then I think like, make sure you're writing, like writing scripts. Like if you're taking classes, I have taken classes even after I graduated that took me to a completely different level in my career. If you can't obviously can't afford classes, then if you can find a mentor or like a group of friends that will read your script and you read their script, and in return, that's crucial. Let's see. I mean, I think, yeah, having a writers group that meets every week or so is crucial. Having deadlines is crucial. And know what your goals are. Like, figure out what success means to you. If you don't know what success means to you, then you have to, it might take you a long time to get to. I mean, well, it'll just be that much harder.
Yeah.
So, is your goal to get a, writer's PA job on a show, or is your goal to get a job at an agency where you can get a, overall view of the industry? You have to define success and kind of small chunk it. Say like, okay, by like year 1, I want to be at an agency. By year 2, I want to be on a desk. Or by year 3, I want to be in a room, or whatever it is. You don't have to do the agency route, but like by year 1, I want to, place at Austin. By year 2, I want to semifinal or final at Austin. By year 3, I want to. I'm like accelerating the timeline for a lot of this stuff. It's way faster than I did it, but yeah, I mean, I think that you really want to figure out what success looks like to you, and then just kind of just write as much as you can. I remember I was working with a showrunner that had an overall deal, and he was just saying like the way to write a good script is write 30 bad ones.
Yeah.
And I think that, but I've also seen people kind of break into the industry on their second script. And she was reading a lot of scripts, and she kind of understood the industry, and she had a very distinct and specific style that I admire. She's an amazing writer, but that's not, it just depends on how badly you want it. Like, and a lot of people have to wait for many years, and some people are, young and break in, and some people are, have been in it for a longer time and are still waiting for their chance or chance to get back in. And I'll even say, like, one of my college professors was an extremely successful writer, had worked on all these shows in the 70s. And I mean, it's stuff that I I can't even conceive of, or I have no conception of what they would even be. And, was teaching at Chapman for a little while, and then he just broke in with, and then he got Supernatural. And now, I don't know, he's probably never going to have to drive himself anywhere again, I think. But so yeah, and he, and it's funny, we were doing a table read in class one day, and I cast him as Grandpa, and he kind of made a little comment, but he wasn't offended, but he was just like, oh, like, anyway, it was a long and winding road, and I was in his class, 21, asking him, how do you get an agent? And he's just said, it's hard. That's what he said. He said, I got somebody when I was 22, but it's just hard.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I mean, you hear that story of somebody who's been in the industry. Look at, Ke Huy Quan, who just won the Oscar, right? And you see all of these different paths, and Ke, from childhood in Goonies and Indiana Jones, and boom, like 30, 40 years of just silence and nothing. He goes into stunts, and then he thinks he's going to leave. So I really think what you're saying is, you got to do the work. You got to be in it for the long haul. And if you don't think you can, then maybe it's not for you.
And money plays a role in all of this. Like, can you afford to sit around and write forever? Like, what's the opportunity cost of that? How many opportunities are there? Like, can you get another job that sustains you until you get that break? And can you write while you have that other job? Right? Like, are you okay with sitting and waiting and maybe not like building up your 401k, not getting benefits, whatever it might be, that all these kind of sacrifices that you make to be in the film industry? I think, like, they always say, like, if you can do something else, then do it. But like, you're going to have to do something else until you do it. There's just, I don't know anybody that's, maybe one time I saw, I was at a WJ panel, and this woman was, she was 22 or 23 and had gotten into one of the fellowships, and then was on like a reboot of a very famous show. And everybody else was like upper level, like legendary writers. And she was, broke in when she was 23. Again, like, you hear those things, but like, it's usually people kind of working for a very long time. And once you have good material and people are responding to your material, it's really about who you know. And like that, 50 Cent says, who you know determines how far you get, and what you know determines how long you stay there when you get there. And so a lot of it is just who you know. And that's why this whole thing about Nepo babies is like such a big deal, because they know kind of everybody from their birth. And then it's like, oh, this is so-and-so's son or so-and-so's daughter. Like, they're just going to get more publicity off of hiring those people. A lot of people can do these jobs. And and then there's also this kind of anyway, I'll just say finance is like a gigantic issue. You have to kind of, if you're going to move out to LA, it's not cheap. And then, you have to like take care of yourself for a certain amount of time. You have to work probably a side job and like pay rent and pay utilities and everything that kind of goes into into the groundwork of building this career. And there's a ton of class discrimination. There's a ton of racial discrimination that's borne out by statistics, or like that's highlighted by statistics that are kind of coming out now. And so these are all kind of considerations. Like, you might love to make movies, but are you better making movies in your hometown with your best friends, for no money, until you go to a festival and now everybody knows you're a genius from Kansas or wherever you live? Or are you better taking that risk, being in LA, paying $1 million for rent, and like getting with the other creatives, learning from other creatives? You have to make those decisions based on a financial basis. And then, do you want to have kids? Do you want to have a house? Like, those are all things that you have to always consider.
Mm-hmm. So good. You're challenging us to count that cost, and how bad do we want it? It is something me in my 40s, I have figured out how I can make it. I work multiple jobs, run a nonprofit, and I've made my creative outlet be making, I have a feature out. I made shorts, but it's not like, the Hollywood execs are knocking down my door, but I'm not doing it for that. I got to keep moving forward. And so every one of us have to figure out, what is it going to be for us? And I think your wisdom about, can you make things with your friends? Can you do it as long as you can, however you can, until you can't do it that way and you do it another way? You just got to move the needle forward somehow. And I think for any emerging writer, one of the things I would recommend is do just that. Write a short film and just make stuff. It's not going to be always great, and that's okay, but learn as you do. And the writer who writes and doesn't do anything with it and hopes that someday someone's going to want to read it might be waiting a long time. But if you find directors and you find actors and you say, let's collaborate. And I also agree with you. A writers group is, like, for me, for the past 4 years now, every Friday, it was 5 of us, and now it's down to just 2 of us that meet. Me and Deanna, we met in a screenwriting class, and without her, I would probably not be as, compelled to meet my deadlines, because I know I have to show pages every week to her and read them through. And so, so that's all good stuff. You're dropping the gems. Thank you. The BraveMaker gems is dropping on us. I really appreciate this, ZIMRAN. This has been so cool. Super glad I connected with you in the Twitterverse, and super stoked for you and your success, and to intermingle. And we'll see how we can connect again in the future. Is there anything I did not ask you that you want to say before we go to our Brave faves?
I'm trying to think. No, I mean, no, that was a really, really good and really kind of covered a lot of ground. I think, I've been working a lot in these fellowships, and I have a lot of stuff in development these days. I think it's getting busier and busier by the
That's
second,
good.
by the day. Like, I look at my to-do list and it's 9 scripts long, and I owe everybody a treatment, or I owe, people want to collaborate with me or whatever it is. And, obviously there's a strike looming, or some sort of negotiation looming, and some people believe there will be a strike. That's another thing. Like, we can't really control these things. Like, we can't, a lot of times, it's never been a good time to get stuffed, but nonetheless, people are still doing it. So, and people are still selling projects. People are finding
Right.
their way in. The writer creates content, and everybody wants content. Everybody wants good content. Everybody wants to kind of have the cool thing. So if you have the cool thing, then you have the cool thing, and like that's really what it kind of comes down to. Man, yeah, like you just make sure you're doing it for the love. Like the money, may or may not be there. It was just, that's just the reality of the situation. But I just really love writing, and like I really love solving story problems. And I love when a script sings. I love
Mhm.
I watch an amazing film or an amazing TV show. I love laughing to Succession. Like all this stuff. Like
Awesome.
you have to do it for the love, and you have to do it for the passion, and eventually, hopefully you'll get a lot of, financially rewarded. But just focus on the process and getting better every day.
Do it for the love, for the love, for the love of writing. I love it.
Yeah.
All right, don't go away, everybody. It's time for our Brave Faves.
Brave Faves. TV shows, films, books, songs, technology, clothing, podcast, food, and more. These are a few of our favorite people, places, and things. Brave Faves.
Okay, I have so many things to watch these days. I want to watch season 2 of Yellow Jackets, and there's all these other shows that are coming up with their next season. But I just heard of a new show, and I jumped on it, and I was not disappointed. It is called Swarm. It is something I did not expect that I was going to absolutely want to binge the heck out of. Dominique Fishback. It's created by Donald Glover and Janine Neighbors, and it is so good. The editing, the sound design, the music. It starts with saying this is not a work of fiction, which is so great, but it's loosely based on toxic fandom of Beyonce. Oh my gosh. It is so good. And basically, it's like a horror comedy. So if you like that kind of vibe, if you like, a little bit of weird takes on life and music and kind of quirky, every episode sometimes is different. There's even different genre episodes. It's so good. Lots of time jumps. Dominique Fishback is probably going to get a lot of attention for her acting in this. You might recognize her from The Deuce or from Judas and the Black Messiah. Hugely recommend. That's my Brave fave for this week. What you got, Zimran?
I am in love with Succession.
Yes.
And I host a watch party, so I have my friends come over and we watch Succession. And the season 4 episode 1 premiere was just amazing. And they, I don't want to spoil anything, but they have a new handshake that my friends and I have adopted.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, it's fun to see this family kind of fight in this power struggle, and it's it's hilarious. There's a little bit of Schadenfreude, and yeah, it's a riot. So I would check it out.
One of the shows on my list to catch up on. I've watched all 3, so I'm excited. This is the final season too, right? So Jesse Armstrong announced it's the final season.
Yeah, that. It kind of snuck up on me. I thought they were going to do maybe 5 seasons, but I understand why they, you can end it.
Yeah.
And yeah, now series are kind of going a little bit shorter. Like 4 seasons does seem like a long time.
Mm-hmm. And it's kind of cool, right? I was reading an article about with Brian Cox talking about how he kind of admires Jesse Armstrong for doing that. Like because he said in America because he's from Scotland, right? Scotland, is that right? Or yeah, Scotland. He was like, Americans want to stretch it all out and go for 10 seasons, like, but if it's only supposed to go 4, then that's the story. And I thought, yeah, that's totally true. It's kind of cool to think about that.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. All right. Well, don't go away, Zimran. Thank you, everybody, for watching our 187th episode of the BraveMaker podcast. Reminder, you are enabling us to do this work just by watching and by sharing. We are also a tax-deductible nonprofit organization. So if you want to give to the work of BraveMaker, meaning you want to support, throw a few dollars to our editors, to our producers, that helps us put this show on, do this show every week, from the space that we rent to the platform that we stream from, all of the fees that come with all that kind of stuff. We really appreciate it. We have 30 people every month who help us out, anywhere from $3 to $10 to $20 to $30. That all helps all of the people behind the scenes that I want to shout out right now. And that is our amazing producer, Amy Cohen from Austin, Texas. She's the one who organizes everything, communicates with our guests, and sets everything up. She's live quoting and doing all that fun stuff. Our intern, Jessica Cohen, who takes the show and then edits it into small little clips and puts it on our Instagram page at BraveMaker.org. And then we've got our editor, Barnell Amos, who is in Grand Rapids, Michigan. He's also our photographer for the film festival. If you're watching all the new photos going up on our BraveMaker Film Fest page, that's Barnell. He's very talented, but Barnell edits this every week, and we're so grateful for his company, Speak Media Services. And then our social media producer, Gary Ali, who creates all the promotional images that you see when they go up every week. I just love this team, and I'm so proud of them, and we want to compensate them. So your support helps their work continue every week. And next week, okay, check this out. Next week, we're not going to meet on our normal Wednesday afternoon for the live show. So if you like watching it live, you're going to come on Tuesday, April 3rd. Yeah, it's kind of weird, I know. Tuesday, April 3rd, we're going to have Josie Rodriguez, who does hair and makeup, and she's an IATSE member, and she's worked on many cool films, especially ones in the Bay Area, ones that you might recognize coming out, like with Owen Wilson, which is called Paint, who was line produced by our former guest, Rick Bosner. So many cool things. And she also worked on Fairyland that was at Sundance this past year, and some other cool things. So check out her work. We're excited to meet her next Tuesday, 3:30 p.m. Pacific time, 7:30 Eastern Standard. All right, Zimran, give everybody where they could find you. It's been popping up on the screen, but where do you want people to follow you on all the socials?
Sure. Twitter at Zimran Jacob, Instagram at Zimran Jacob, and Facebook, my name is Zimran Jacob. And yeah, TikTok, you can find me. I think I'm still Zimran Jacob on TikTok. Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Heck yeah. Did you get that? It's Zimran Jacob, everybody. Should be pretty easy to find on all the places. And I'm Tony Gappasone. You can find me on the socials at Tony Gappasone or BraveMaker.org, where we post all of this information. Don't forget the BraveMaker Film Fest, July 13th through the 16th. You might see Zimran because he lives in the Bay Area, or his family does. But you'll meet a bunch of other cool people who are coming up from LA. We're very, very excited. VIP all access passes are on sale. That includes parties and panel discussions and all 40 films that will be screened. We'll be announcing those films June 1st. Take a breath, everybody. Zimran, thank you so much. This is so good. I love meeting people like you, and I'm inspired by you, and hope to stay connected. Do not go away, Zimran, because I got to take a screenshot so that Carrie can post it later. But everybody else, you can go away after this final bumper. Bye, everybody. Brave stories change the world, and you are the story. See you next week.
Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook at BraveMaker.org. Like, subscribe, and share. To become a monthly donor, text the word BraveMaker to 44321 or go to bravemaker.com/donate. Thanks for tuning in.